On a grey morning in the year 108, on the northern edge of the Roman world, a team of stonemasons pressed their chisels into a slab of limestone above a fortress gateway. The letters they cut were simple and official. They recorded that the 9th Legion had rebuilt the wall of the fortress at Eboracum, the city we now call York, in solid stone. It was the kind of proud, unremarkable notice that legions left scattered across the empire from Syria to the Rhine. Yet that single inscription would become one of the most haunting objects in all of Roman history. Because after it, the 9th Legion simply disappears. Nearly 5,000 trained soldiers, one of Rome's oldest and most decorated units, slip out of the written record, and to this day, no one can say for certain what became of them. To understand the mystery, you have to understand the men. Legio IX Hispana was born in the violence of the dying republic, most likely raised in the 60s before Christ. It marched with Julius Caesar through the forests and rivers of Gaul, and it stood in his line at Pharsalus when he broke Pompey and changed the course of Roman history. Its very name, Hispana, may have been earned in the hard mountain campaigns of Spain. For generations it was shifted from frontier to frontier, a familiar tool of emperors, until in the year 43 it joined the Emperor Claudius in the great invasion of Britain. Britain nearly destroyed it. In the year 60, when the warrior Queen Boudica raised the tribes of eastern Britain in revolt, a detachment of the 9th marched to relieve the burning colony at Colchester. They were caught in the open and butchered. Their commander, Quintus Petilius Cerealis, escaped with only his cavalry, riding hard for the safety of his camp while behind him his infantry died. The legion was rebuilt with fresh drafts from Germany, and in time it moved north, raising the great fortress of Eboracum around the year 71. There it settled, guarding the frontier, building first in timber and then in stone. And there, in 108, it left us that final proud inscription. Then, silence. The 9th does not appear on the two great lists of Roman legions carved in the middle of the 2nd century, catalogues of every active unit in the empire. Somewhere in the decades after 108, it ceased to exist as a fighting force. No triumphant enemy boasted of destroying it. No emperor recorded disbanding it. It is simply there one year and gone the next, a gap in the ledger of an empire that was obsessive about its records. For a long time, one explanation held the imagination above all others. The theory ran that the 9th marched north from York into the mist-soaked hills of Caledonia, what is now Scotland, to crush the untamed tribes there, and that it never came back. Ambushed in the glens, overwhelmed by warriors who knew the ground, the legion was annihilated to the last man. The disaster, so the story goes, was so severe that a new emperor, Hadrian, drew a line across the island and built his famous wall to seal off the north. This vision was made unforgettable by a 1954 novel, The Eagle of the Ninth, in which a young Roman goes into the wild to recover the lost legion's sacred standard. It is a powerful, romantic story. But it may not be true. Archaeology tells a more complicated tale. At Nijmegen, in the modern Netherlands, on the far bank of the Rhine, excavators found roof tiles and stamped fragments bearing the legion's mark, Leg VIII Hisp, in contexts that seem to date after the legion's supposed destruction in Britain. If those stamps are what they appear to be, then the 9th did not die in the Scottish hills at all. It survived, and was transferred across the sea to the Rhine frontier, still intact, still building, still Roman. Which only deepens the puzzle. If the legion left Britain alive, then where did it finally meet its end? Here the theories scatter across the map of the empire. Some scholars suspect it perished in the east, swallowed by one of Rome's brutal frontier wars, perhaps in the catastrophe of the year 161, when a Roman army was destroyed by the Parthians in the mountains of Armenia. Others point to the Jewish revolt led by Simon Bar Kokhba between 132 and 136, a war so savage that another legion, the 22nd, seems to vanish from the records at almost the same moment. The 9th may lie beneath the sands of Judea, or in a forgotten pass in the Caucasus, its story lost with the men who could have told it. And that is the strange, quiet power of this mystery. Rome remembered its disasters. When 3 legions were swallowed by the forests of Germany in the year 9, the shock echoed for centuries. The Emperor Augustus is said to have beaten his head against the walls, crying out for his lost legions. But the 9th left no such echo. It faded, without a battle cry, without a lament, without a grave we can find. Somewhere out there, under a Scottish moor, a Dutch field, or an eastern desert, lie the traces of 5,000 men who marched under an eagle for nearly 200 years, and then walked out of history altogether. And until the ground gives up its secret, the fate of the Ninth Legion remains one of the great unsolved silences of the ancient world.